All right, looks like we are live on Facebook. Instagram is coming up now. Looks like we are good. Let's see here. Move the camera. All right. Looking good. Looks like Instagram is live. Facebook is online. We will give it just a second and get started in just a second. All right. So here we go. Thanks for tuning in to the next Tasting Torah. This week we'll talk about Sampson. In this week's Torah portion of Naso, we discuss the laws of the Nazir. In the Haftorah, we read about Shimshon, about Sampson, the mightiest of men, strongest man in the Bible. He destroyed... Sorry, it looks like we're having a little trouble with Facebook Live. Somehow got terminated, not sure. Sorry about this technical difficulty. Well, we'll go ahead with it. Kind of looks like it's not working, but it might be working. So we'll give it a shot. So, as we were saying, this week's Torah portion, the portion of Naso, discusses the Nazir, the Nazarite. The Haftorah, we read about Shimshon, about Sampson, who was the strongest man in the Bible. He destroyed the Philistines. He tore apart a stadium with his bare hands. But he's neutralized by a haircut. Delilah cuts his hair, and he loses all of his strength. Why should such a simple non-event have stripped him of all of his powers? It doesn't make sense. The answer is that Shimshon is a Nazir. And as we read in this week's portion, he accepts the Nazirite vow upon himself, precluding him from cutting his hair, coming in contact with the dead body, and drinking wine. The portion now continues and teaches of the atonement offering of a Nazir that he must bring after his Nazirite period. But why would a Nazir have to bring an atonement sacrifice? He just took upon himself extra prohibitions voluntarily beyond the letter of the law, and now he somehow requires atonement? What sin did he commit? The Talmud discusses this, and one of the Talmudic opinions is that the fact that he denied himself the pleasures of drinking wine, that makes him considered to be sinful. Well, why is it wrong to deny yourself of anything? Just because God allows us to enjoy the fruit of the vine, is it wrong to abstain? Do I really need to eat every kosher certified item there is? If I decide not to eat cake or not to dine in a certain restaurant, do I now need to atone for something? I would suggest that it isn't really about the abstaining as much as it is about the attitude. How should we approach God and the material world? Do we need to disconnect ourselves from society in order to be holy? Or should we dismiss everything that isn't completely holy just so that we can appear to be a little more spiritual? I don't know. Throughout our society, we have many different ideologies. Some may preach celibacy. They may see the body as impure and marriage as giving into temptation. Then there are those that go up to the mountaintops and meditate there and try to escape the hustle of everyday life and try to find spirituality there. But I think we need to see things a little differently. Rejecting or escaping are too simple. We need to embrace and engage God's world. Yes, we need to follow the Torah, we need to follow the commandments, but within that framework, we should work with God's universe. Every mitzvah we do achieves just that. We take the physical and transform it into spiritual. Not by breaking it or running away from it, by confronting and turning it into something sacred and purposeful. So the Nazir, who found it necessary to distance himself from that which God created, is somewhat sinful after all, and that is what requires atonement. We need to strive for a higher purpose, for us and for the things around us. Don't let the emptiness of society take you down. We must challenge and insist on changing our society for the better. So, we can enjoy a delicious bourbon, but don't forget, sanctify it with a blessing, make a bracha, and say l'chaim. So with that, we have this week's bourbon, Peerless Bourbon. Peerless is a wonderful distillery. They're based in downtown Louisville. They actually resurrected their brand from before Prohibition. If you look on their bottle, they have the DSB 50. I don't know if you can see it in the video. DSB is the distiller number given by the federal government, and they have number 50. They are only a few years old, and we're up to 20,000 and something. So the way they actually got 50 is they petitioned the government to give them back the family's number that they had way back before Prohibition, and I believe they're the only ones to have successfully gotten that renewed. Another interesting thing about Peerless is a sweet mash. Most bourbons are a sour mash. Sour mash means that you kind of like the same way you make sour bread dough. You have a little bit of the dough that you use for the next batch. So in a bourbon, a sour mash will be you take some of that mash bill that you've made for your bourbon, and you keep some of that for the next one. At Peerless, they make each one brand new. It's a sweet mash, so it's a little different. Another thing that's really cool about Peerless is that there's a few rules in order for something to be bourbon, right? So the barrel has to be a certain barrel. There's all these different rules. We're not going to get into all of that right now. But the distilling can only be done up to 160 proof. That's the highest you can distill the spirits to. It goes in the barrel at no more than 125. So most distillers will distill it up to the 125 or a little lower and barrel it there. At Peerless, they'll add water to bring that proof down. Instead of when they bring it out of the barrel, add water in order to lower the proof. They'll add it before so that water gets to sit in that barrel for the entire aging process and gets all that extra flavor that if you add that water after it comes out of the barrel, you kind of miss out on. So that's just a few interesting things that they do a little different. They've won outstanding awards. They have a award-winning rye in their bourbon, and we're going to taste it now. So I got my Peerless glass. Thank you, Peerless, for that. So this is a single barrel bourbon. Each barrel will yield around 200, roughly 200 bottles. And it gets profiled at the distillery by a team there. This one has been labeled Hearth. I don't know if you can see that. So not every Peerless single barrel will be the same. Each one will have its own flavor profile here. And it's got Caleb's signature, the master distiller, on the side there. So what we're drinking tonight is the Hearth variety. So it's got a nice amber, a little on the light side on the color. Wow, great nose. A lot of sweet vanilla. Wow, kind of almost like a cherry as well. Go for a taste. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah b'dvaro. Wow. L'chaim. Wow. Very full flavor, smoky, oak, kind of like a savory taste sticks around. And then as it comes down, that flavor stays, comes all the way down, makes you feel nice and warm inside, a little peppery, just comes down real smooth. A smooth but full flavor. Outstanding. L'chaim.